The questions remain the same in each of these interviews. The power lies in hearing these amazing answers. My name is Tony Reese, and it is with a great privilege and honor I present to you this installment of My Life Lessons, showcasing senior adults. Hi there, and welcome to My Life Lessons, showcasing senior adults. And today, our guest is Evans Goodling. Welcome to the project.
Thank you.
So, Evans, take a moment and tell us just a little bit about yourself before we go into the project.
Well, I'm an old timer around these parts. I actually was born and raised in York, Pennsylvania. And when I went to Penn State, I met a pretty Berks County girl. And a few years later, we eventually got married and went to housekeeping in Harrisburg and then down to Texas for about 4 years. And then back to Berks County. That was in 1969, and we've been here ever since.
And I bet it's been quite a journey.
Yep.
Well, let's go into the project. So, Evans, how would you define a great life?
Well, a great life includes, I would say, financial security for one thing. Mm-hmm. It includes a loving marriage, which we have, and it's an opportunity to live in harmony with my neighbors.
I love that answer, harmony with your neighbors.
Yeah.
How has being here at the Highlands helped you continue that great life of what you've just spoken about?
Well, we moved into one of the cottages down on Gale Song Lane. Mm-hmm. And we were actually, when we came to one of the familiarization presentations, we were just thinking about it at the time, and they persuaded us to sign up. They said it might be years before you get called. Well, it wasn't too awful long after that. We suddenly discovered that we signed up, and we suddenly discovered we were number one on the list. Oh. So we immediately had to get ready to begin to downsize and talk about putting our house up for sale. And we were actually the second family to move in. Our neighbors, who were second on the list, beat us in by about 2 weeks. So. Mm-hmm.
And so how does the harmony of your neighbors, does it still apply here at the Highlands? With that great life?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
They're still far enough away that we never hear them. But all the people down at Gale Song are very friendly sorts, and we don't often encounter them except occasionally at some of the activities here at the big house.
The big house. So when you were a child, Evans, who were your heroes or your role models?
Well, I would say that my father was probably my greatest hero. He never finished at Penn State, but he was up there during the Depression, and he eventually, actually during World War II, he volunteered for enlistment in the Army, and he went into the Army at the age of 34 with a family of his wife and 3 children at the time, and they put him right into infantry training down in Florida. Mm-hmm. And he would have been slated to go to the Normandy invasion, but they found out that he could type 30 words a minute with 2 fingers, so they made him a clerk typist and assigned him to a military hospital in North Carolina, and where he he was able to rent a small cottage there and bring my mother and my two sisters down to live with him. I remember he paid $25 a month for that cottage.
Oh my gosh.
So I was in grade school down there in 6th and 7th grade for a little bit before we returned to Pennsylvania.
What was it about your father that he was such a role
Well,
model?
he was, he was a relatively private person, but his first objective was the emotional and financial support of his family, and which was something that still leaves a mark in my memory. And another role model that I had was his older brother, my bachelor uncle, who was a good friend of mine all the way up from childhood till the time that he died. But he was only 64 years old. But he also became a sort of a surrogate grandpa to our two sons when my parents retired to Florida. And he still lived in the old family home there in York. And he was a great guy, and our sons just loved him.
So there was a lot of family
Yes.
closeness, it's what it sounds like.
Yes.
So what do you think would surprise people the most to learn about you?
I think that the thing they would most be surprised about is the fact that I have so many historical research projects underway.
Oh yes, like what?
I'm doing a study of the early history and ownership of the islands in the Susquehanna River around 3 Mile Island. It's in a area that they refer to as Lake Frederick, named for Frederick Cox, who had lived here in Wyomissing, who was president of Metropolitan Edison. But there is so much rich history in those islands going back to the 1750s, when 3 Mile Island first was. It came into the focus of a fellow by the name of Thomas Cookson, who was a surveyor general for the Penn family, and he expressed an interest in it. But it's kind of exciting to just study the history of the ownership of those islands. In fact, my grandfather owned one of the little islands.
Did you know that before you started the research?
Oh yes, I knew it very much because I had spent part of the first 21 years of my life up there, weekends during the summer, in the cottage that he had built on the island. So I rode the boat around all the islands up there. So I knew the area rather intimately. What I didn't know was that there were cemeteries on 2 of them, and I'm just now getting to survey those cemeteries and record who's buried there.
What do you do with all this information that you are gathering?
Well, I presented a PowerPoint program here at the Highlands and also at the Historical Society on the islands, laced with digital photographs and so forth. I'm in the process of writing it in preparation for probably publishing a book. I've recently published a history of Brecknock Township, which is well over 800 pages.
Oh my goodness.
Which I had been working on for about 30 years. Other things that really interest me are the 1940 census of the neighborhood that I lived in York. And I found the names of all the families that I knew in the area. And at some point, I'll probably do something for the Journal of the York County History Society. Mm-hmm. And
that's quite a lot of things that you're doing.
Yes, and frankly, I'm 83 years old now, and I have an agenda that extends out about 20 years.
Okay.
And for that reason, I keep my eye on Clarence Gloner.
Who we've
Because
had the
I
privilege.
think, by gosh, if he can do it, I have a good chance at it.
Yes, absolutely. He was 106 when we interviewed him and had just renewed his driver's license.
Yes.
So, yes, I think that's awesome.
He's just great.
So, what has been your greatest life lesson?
Well, I think to learn to avoid conflict and confrontation, and to live a harmonious life. And I've found that in my family life, my church, and my community. I have a problem with keeping a train of thought sometimes. But I worked as a mechanical engineer in 3 different careers. First, 13 years in the aerospace industry, and 4 years as a plant engineer in Berks County, and for close to 40 years as a consulting engineer for Gilbert Associates and its successor companies.
So, the life lesson of conflict and confrontation and harmonious life, can you give an example of how you might have applied that in your life?
Well, I would say that it has been valuable in building teams within my profession, and developing a form of leadership, and passing on responsibility, and encouraging and mentoring young engineers. And it's kind of interesting. One fellow that I was a mentor for, beginning back in 1973, just retired this year, and he's on the future residence list here at the Highlands.
Oh, that must be something to see that come full circle.
Yes, it is.
So, Evans, what does love mean to you?
Love means maintaining a harmonious relationship in a committed marriage. And beyond that, I guess I could talk a little more on that, but that really has been, I think, the largest example of support that I've had is that of my wife.
Mm-hmm. So love is really the underpinning for you through most of this interview is harmonious.
Yes.
And commitment.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So Evans, how do you want to be remembered?
Well, I'd like to be remembered for my efforts through the years. First, for having, with my wife, established a family. We now have 2 granddaughters that we are very much committed to supporting our sons and our extended family. I'd like to be remembered for my efforts through the years to preserve the memories of my immigrant ancestors who came over from Europe, mostly in the mid-1700s, and writing down the history of their early lives here. I'd like to also be remembered for my contributions to the engineering profession through the papers and journal articles that I've written over the years.
Wow, what a legacy. And what a legacy you're still living with all the research that you're doing with history and preserving that history. So thank you so very much for being a part of this very important project. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.